Hello, you're listening to Fighting for Christianity. Did Jonah travel fast to Nineveh, or was Nineveh a large city of 3 days' journey? Or Jonah 3:4 explained. Before I continue, remember to like and subscribe and click the bell icon to receive the latest notifications. Do you have questions that need to be answered? Did I make any mistakes? Post your questions or comments in the section below. Here's a summary of Jonah. God commands Jonah to go to the city of Nineveh to prophesy against it. Jonah instead attempts to flee from the presence of the Lord. A huge storm arises and the sailors throw Jonah overboard. Jonah gets swallowed by a large fish. The fish vomits Jonah out. God again commands Jonah to travel to Nineveh and prophesy to its inhabitants. This time Jonah preaches to Nineveh. The people of Nineveh proclaim a fast and change their ways. God sees repentant hearts and spares the city. Here's a section we'll focus on. In Jonah 3:1 it says, "And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go into Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey, and Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey. And he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown." Did Jonah travel fast to Nineveh? Was Nineveh a large city of 3 days' journey? So why is this researched? Because this is a topic a lot of people wonder but don't know the answer to. Check out Pastor Anderson from Faithful Word Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona. We see that not even the congregation knows the answer, and his church has 300 people in attendance typically, with his channel having millions of viewers. This sermon was around October 2019, and his sermon was about the book of Jonah. He questioned this topic as well and kind of debated it amongst his audience. I always thought as a kid that Jonah got to Nineveh in one day, without researching it, until listening to Pastor Anderson's sermon and realizing this is a topic that needs discussed. So there's two popular theories. One is that the city has a span of 3 days' journey, and the other is that Jonah went extremely fast and got to the city in one day. I'm going to prove that the city was not the span of 3 days' journey. Jonah did not go extremely fast to the city, and actually, I'm going to prove that Jonah started preaching the destruction of Nineveh to the people who were living on the outskirts of Nineveh before entering the city on the first day of his journey. Let's get into it. First, I'm going to debunk that the city was not the span of a 3 days journey. Let's look at this again. If we cut down to 3:3, it says, So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey. And he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So when it comes to understanding something biblical, we need to remember 1 Corinthians 2:13, which says, Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. In other words, we figure out what the Bible is saying by comparing it to other Bible passages. We're comparing spiritual things with spiritual. The Bible always refers to journey as a trip. There's not a single verse in the Bible that uses journey as anything other than a trip. If we look in Exodus 8:27, it says, We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness. Genesis 29:1, Then Jacob went on his journey. In Genesis 12:9, And Abram journeyed. In Numbers 10:33, it gives a good comparable passage to show it's about taking a trip and not a size. Let's look what it says. And they departed from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them in the 3 days' journey to search out a resting place for them. You can see they're taking a trip. And look at these words. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. They match. This shows that the trip will take 3 days. If I was to say I'm going to Indianapolis, a 3 hour journey, you would know that it's going to take me 3 hours to get there. It would be wrong to think that Indianapolis takes 3 hours to get across it. When the Bible mentions journey, it is always referring to taking a trip. If you look in the Bible has never referred to the size of a city in length of journey. Now, the Bible has refers to the size of a city by borders in Numbers 22:36. And when Balak heard that Balaam was come, he went out to meet him unto a city of Moab, which is in the border of Arnon, which is in the utmost coast. Deuteronomy 3:16. And unto the Reubenites and unto the Gadites I gave from Gilead, even unto the river Arnon, half the valley, and the border, even unto the river Jabbok, which is the border of the children of Ammon. The Bible refers to the size of a city by measurements. If you look at Numbers 35:5, and ye shall measure from without the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits, and the city shall be in the midst. This shall be to them the suburbs of the city. In Revelation 21:16, and the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth, and he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. A city does not get measured by how long it takes to cross it. Thinking Nineveh as a 3-day journey used as a form of measurement is an incorrect interpretation. Number two, we're going to debunk that Jonah went extremely fast and got to the city in 1 day. There's an assumption that Jonah entered the city in 3:3. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. When I was young, I used to think that Jonah entered Nineveh in 1 day because I applied it to how I would use the word went. Similar to someone saying, I went to the store or I went to work. The assumption is that we already went. But just because that's how people talk today, it doesn't mean it's correctly used. Went is the past tense of go. Gone is the past participle of go. If you aren't sure whether to use gone or went, remember that gone always needs an auxiliary verb before it. Has, have, had, is, am, are, was, were, be, but went doesn't. I could have gone to the store yesterday. That's an example. This is according to Grammarly.com. If Jonah already arrived at Nineveh, the Bible would have correctly said, had gone unto Nineveh. Rather, the Bible uses the past tense of go. We got to realize that there are 4 parallel statements being said here. Let's look. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise. So Jonah arose. Past tense of arise is arose. Go unto Nineveh. This is what the Lord said. And went unto Nineveh. That's what Jonah did. The past tense of go is went. Unto means to, just to keep that clear. So he got up and started going to Nineveh. That's what Jonah did. Arise. The definition according to Merriam-Webster, to get up or stand up. God told Jonah to get up. When God made these commands, Jonah was not already up. Otherwise, he wouldn't have told Jonah to arise. Go unto Nineveh. God was telling Jonah to get going to Nineveh. First he said to arise or get up, then he said go unto Nineveh or get going to Nineveh. He wasn't at Nineveh yet, but rather God is telling him to take that journey to Nineveh. Go unto Nineveh. Does it mean Jonah's at Nineveh already? It means Jonah is going to Nineveh. We see the same parallel events in chapter 1 of Jonah. Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, and in 1:3 it says, But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. And we look at how similar it is. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Did Jonah make it to Tarshish? No. He got on the ship at Joppa and got thrown overboard. Going unto Tarshish, like going unto Nineveh, means he's taking the journey to that place. Do you see the similar wording? Why are we going over this? Because people think Jonah arrived in Nineveh already, when all he really did was start going to Nineveh. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. See, God told him at that moment to get up and get going, word for word, and Jonah did exactly what God said, exactly as God said. This is an important phrase because it's an indicator of that Jonah did what God told him to do. He didn't arrive at Nineveh, he simply did what God told him to do, to travel to Nineveh. And you look at 3:1, it says, And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the second time saying, right? Arise, go to Nineveh. Jonah arose and went according to the word of the Lord. For example, it's like me telling my kids to get up and go to school. And I see my kids walking to school with their backpacks on. How come you're not in school? I got up and went to school just as you said. Do you see how get up and go and got up and went are the same thing? My kids did according to what I said. This is the same type of thing. See, Jonah did according to the word of the Lord.